Good evening, everybody, and I would just like to begin by thanking Professor McKay for inviting Grafton Architects to speak to you this evening, and to thank the sponsor for perpetuating, I suppose, an architectural dialogue. Schools of architecture are really the places where the new architects of the future are born and cared for and nurtured, and the schools invite practicing architects to kind of explain their work. And on behalf of Grafton Architects, I'm very honored to be here this evening. So thank you for the invitation. We chose the title, The Physics of Culture, because we felt that it captures something of the nature of architecture. You could say that physics deals with facts and that culture deals with values. Physics mixes gravity, natural elements of the sun, the moon, the position on the Earth's crust, wind, rain, fog, ice, with time and use. Culture is how we represent ourselves, whether it is music, painting, literature, or architecture. The architect Eric Paré, in his book Context, Architecture and the Genius of Place, describes the world of city, and I quote, of cities, the essential storehouse of human experience. When people build, they are investing in the present and the future. They are making full-scale models of what they value. The value of architecture is not about image, but about the complete experience of enclosure. This image on the screen, which is part of our Venice Biennale exhibition, which is on at the moment, where I met Donald, and also a student this evening has said that he's been recently there. I want you to look at this drawing because it is, first of all, a magnificent drawing done in 1760, I just look at the exact date, in this late 1700s. But I want to refer to a book by a woman called Andrea Wolff, and her book is called The Invention of Nature. And she brings to life a wonderful person called Alexander von Humboldt. And in the book, she describes how in the foothills of the Andes Mountains, this man, Humboldt, began to sketch what he called, this drawing, Naturgemälde. It's a non-translatable German term which can mean a painting of nature, but it also implies a sense of unity or wholeness. Unlike scientists who had previously classified the natural world into long lists in strict hierarchy, with endless tables and categories, Humboldt now produced a drawing. So if I can just check on this one here that I have the pointer, which I think is here. So on either side of this drawing are these scientific lists of pressure, of height, of other issues that are scientifically describing, and Humboldt does this beautiful drawing. To the left and right, as I've pointed out, are several columns, and he's describing the world of science, but he puts the scientific information simply into a drawing, and this is unprecedented. No one before Humboldt had presented this kind of complex data visually. And he's depicting this mountain, which is called Chimborazo, in cross-section, and it's depicting nature as a web in which everything is connected. This one drawing and the ideas that it has shaped would change the way future generations would think about the natural world. This image is also in relation to Humboldt because he invented isotherms, the lines that we see on weather maps today, and which connect different geographical points experiencing the same temperatures. It marked the beginning of a new understanding of climate. Before Humboldt's isotherms, weather data was also listed in those long lists I talked about a few minutes ago. But now we had a graphic visualization of the same data. So instead of lists, his isotherm map showed the world of patterns that hugs the Earth in a wavy series of belts. And scientists today still use his isotherms to understand and depict climate change and global warming. Now, the reason for showing you these two slides is that Humboldt has become part of Grafton architects' lives because of an architectural competition. So on this drawing, you see Ireland on the edge of Europe here across the Atlantic. And down here, you see the country of Peru, and you see the, if you line the position on the Earth of the two countries. Lima is a city of 10 million people, and it's a desert city. It's also 12 degrees south of the equator. But because of the Humboldt current, which comes up from Antarctica, you have a cold current, highly nutriently filling the oceans with incredible fish, but also keeping the temperature of a desert city, which should be unbelievably hot, constantly in the 70s Fahrenheit, or around the 20s Celsius. It's also a city of fantastic pieces. These are called huacas. These are mud brick platforms, series of platforms, which are built by, if you like, collections of handmade sand bricks, forming these plateaus and areas in ancient times, for gathering and for administration. So this city of 10 million needed a university. It was a competition. So we started looking at this city, and the consequence of the cold current in the Pacific, along the edge of the city, which is these amazing 40-meter high natural cliffs, is this fog develops. So for some time during the year, you get this fantastic white fog, which we have discovered, because of the intensity of the sun, refracts the light and intensifies the light and kind of catches you at the back of the eye in terms of its intensity. So this was the city where we were doing the competition, near these fantastic cliffs and at temperatures that were really moderate. So what we did, I'm aware that, speaking in a school of architecture, that one of the most important things is to map out for us, to map out how ideas begin, how ideas survive, and how they make buildings. So these are the kind of early sketches. These are the DNA, the beginnings of the project in Lima. So as you've seen, this is the kind of scratches, these sketches, this blue representing the Pacific, these kind of pieces representing the 40-meter high cliffs that bind the city. And the site was away from the cliffs, just in a little valley off it. And it has if you like, this valley has a motorway running through it, and the site was about 360 meters long, or about 1,000 feet long. So the brief, this was really to do with context, and the brief for the new university is a brand new University of Engineering. And the brief that we were given, or the program, I'm not sure what the term in Canada is, whether it's a program or schedule of accommodation, but it's really the list of what is required by your client. And the lists include big laboratories, medium-sized laboratories, small laboratories, teaching spaces, a library administration, that kind of thing. And the way we read the context and the way we read the brief, or the program, was that you have a busy motorway along here on the plan, and in section, what we said is the motorway is the noisy, busy one on the left-hand side of this drawing, that we would stack the laboratories, the bigger ones on the lower level, getting smaller and smaller as you move up, using their roofs as cascading gardens, because on this side here is an area called Barranco, which is much lower in terms of, it's a residential part, a very interesting and beautiful part of the city of Lima. So this is the DNA, the kind of acorn of the oak, if you like. This is really us trying to synthesize the requirements of place, of function, to make a new university in the city of Lima. When you're asked to think about a university, one of the things that's really important, that we would argue, is that it's an institution where it brings people together. And this project was to be in 3 parts, 3 phases. Phase 1 for undergraduate, and then it moves on to postgraduate work and PhD. And we asked the question, I mean, we could easily have done 3 office blocks where you build phase 1, students step into an elevator, press the button and move up and down in kind of 3 towers, let us say, as a strategy. But what we said is we have a project to think about on the other side of the earth. We have a climate where inside and outside can be blurred because it's so pleasant. There's no rain, there's 9 millimeters of rain per year. There's no need for insulation. Inside, outside is, if you like, theoretically identical in terms of temperature. And why could we not check the typology and think about a university as an arena for learning? And this sketch, this beautiful sketch on the top of this image, is by Mendes de Rocha. It's a stadium in Dorado in South America. And what we were interested, even though we are interested in the game of soccer, which is played here, we're socially more interested in the infrastructure and the places where people gather. So we, as I said, that we thought about a university as a possibility of an arena for learning, that we would look more like a stadium where people could interact. This is our section for the competition, where on the left-hand side is the busy motorway, which is down here. We tucked the lower, this is parking and other elements down below here, and then began building up the section with the large laboratories, smaller size, moving up in terms of teaching up to the library, and using the roofs of the bigger elements to form these intimate spaces for student life to happen, so that you'd move outside with your laptop or whatever. And this image, also made by us for the competition, is really saying educationally that if you can have all the circulation outside, and that we only make the rooms that really, really need to be air-conditioned, that we enclose them and air condition them, but everything else that can possibly be outside, to the outside atmosphere, we will leave them so. So this image is really saying that you have a big laboratory. If you're a student studying some of the other disciplines within the complex, that you can see what's going on in a lower laboratory and perhaps change your mind about what course you might do. And that outside and inside is a cafe and relating to the surround. This is a paper model which we made to actually describe the intensity. Along here is the busy motorway, and these are the cascading gardens down to Barranco on the right-hand side. This is an image from the competition of the cascading building. When we were doing the competition, only one architect in our office had been to Peru and had spent time in the city of Lima. And it was really listening to stories from her as she experienced the place, the description of how open the people are, the way they live. Also, this is one of her images from Lake Titicaca, and you can see these beautiful terrace gardens down to this amazing lake. But we were really interested in thinking of the building as landscape, as, if you like, carved terraces onto the roofs of the laboratories. And these 2 images, which formed a part of our exhibition. We were in the Common Ground exhibition in 2012. It was the Biennale that was curated by David Chipperfield. And we presented the UTEC project in a different way than we are doing at the moment in Venice. But these 2 images, one on the left-hand side, this is Machu Picchu, which is high in the Andes Mountains from around the 15th century. And on this side here is a monastic settlement on an island called Skellig Michel. It's off the west coast of Ireland. And when we were putting up these 2 posters in Venice, the Venetian workman asked, why are you putting up 2 images of the same thing? And the point for us, which is really interesting, is that these 2 places, Machu Picchu and Skellig Michel, are in the left-hand case, the vastness of the Andes Mountains, absolutely enormous natural phenomenon, and yet the intimacy of these small gardens with the civic areas within Machu Picchu really interest us. And in the case of Skellig Michel with the monks, it's really a hermitage on the edge of the Atlantic, that you have these small spaces, intimate spaces, and you have the vast Atlantic. And what interests us is that there's no middle ground. It's either the major Andes or the Atlantic, and these intimate spaces for the individuals. And the title tonight, just speaking to you, the physics of culture, is really saying that architecturally, you have a choice as students of architecture in the rest of your lives. You can have a kind of a product which you'll sell as an architect. You'll have a kind of an architecture that you do. You make it like this, and you kind of sell it for every place on the earth. Or you say that each place on the earth is different. And if that is the case, how do we, as architectural detectives, think about the physics of place? How do we think about the physics of culture? And this important series of drawings, a series of studies, is really saying we're building a building, this sketch here, we're building a building 12 degrees down from the equator, where the sun is unbelievably hot. But by chance, the Humboldt current is keeping this place cool. So we're really looking at how do we make a vertical campus for the students within the UTEC campus. And the way that the laboratories are moving in, they actually form a corbel on the inside, which acts like a peak cap. So things are leaning out to form the terraces, but they're also leaning in to form an enclosed vertical space for the campus of UTEC. So these drawings over here are really us trying to shift and pull and drag at the functions of this university to make sure that the space in which the student common life, where they're held together, is protected from the sun. And these, if you like, the dance of the sun above the head of this kind of a boomerang or banana-shaped drawing of the site shows the way the sun actually moves around. So I suppose this issue is also because you're students and architects of the future, that this issue of sustainability, we did not want to build a glass building in a place where the sun is so close to the equator. We did not want to build a university that relies totally on air conditioning. We wanted to find a mix of the kind of cultural value of blurring the boundaries between inside and outside to make, if you like, a new interpretation of what a university could be in the city of Lima. So this is our plan. It's the lower level here. It shows the full extent of the university. Phase 1 is complete. 2 and 3 are further along the boomerang. This is the phase that's actually built. And in the drawing for the competition, that's the busy road up here, we've placed most of the public, the so-called kind of common uses as you enter into the campus. And the plans really are a series of, it's like an abacus. We set up a structure. If you can imagine, cars are brought on the lower level and tucked in onto the building, the access here. We placed a series of structures which are at 20-meter rhythm across the site. But because the site is curving, you get a kind of a series of shifted perspectives. So instead of a vista, if this was a rectangular site, you would have had a very different kind of building. I'll refer to a project that was referred to earlier on in Bocconi in Milan, where the site was rectangular and a different project, if you like, emerged from that. But in this one here, we're arriving in, we're moving up, so you have a series of, if you like, fire staircases which act as the rhythm, the general rhythm for the building, and then we place the functions slung in a kind of an abacus kind of way within the building. And moving up then, you've got this integrated landscape. So any little bit of green is really threading through landscape through the plan. Essentially, the circulation is at right angles, but sometimes we hang staircases in the voids. So as we move up this matrix, you find on the 5th level that where the student common rooms and cafes are, that the more gardens appear in this section. As we move up the building, it's essentially, as I said, like an abacus putting the uses together. And on the very top, we have this kind of peak cap. This acts as a kind of a final shading. I'll show you now in the section. There are 14, these are the 14 if you like, mega structures that hold the campus. It starts with the wall beam 1, or this one here, and we move down through the site, these taking the various bands and structures. And you see this little cap, this little guy is protecting people from the sun, from the angle of the sun. This is a more detailed section. Also, Lima is a seismic area, so the parking, which is down on the lower level of the parking is anchored into the earth. And here, just between the anchored part, are these huge seismic isolators. So these guys are, this kind of size. They're essentially springs, and the idea is that this is held in the moving earth, and that the building above actually shudders with the quake and then settles down to normal again afterwards. I hope I'm never there to prove this to be the case, but our structural engineers console us in this being correct. But just in terms of the structure, then, you have the ground plane, which is entered here, you have the motorway on the lower level here, and you have this wall which acts like a buttress to the sound. The main issue, as well as sun and the height of the sun penetrating into the vertical campus, is also the noise from the motorway. So these bars of bridges are doing two functions. They're getting, obviously, students from A to B and moving across the campus, but they're also acting as acoustic buffers to deaden the sound as it comes in from the motorway. So this section is like a working section, showing you the power of structure. It's all made in situ or poured in place concrete. Then you have, if you like, larger beams, smaller beams, and then you have some precast elements that go into the building. So we move up from laboratories to more laboratories, teaching space, and the library and the roof garden are places where students enjoy the panorama and the vista looking towards the Pacific Ocean and also looking towards the Andes and the city itself. And the other natural phenomenon which we have harnessed is that there is a constant breeze into the city from the Pacific Ocean. So with the heat of the sun on the building and the breeze in this space, you get a type of equilibrium. And the reason for presenting it to you as young architects is that the future that you have to deal with will be dealing with sustainability. And sustainability and the use of resources will be something crucial to your architectural decisions. And the case we're making, I suppose, with this project is that there's a cultural dimension to the physics of place, and that it isn't about doing a glass building and then trying to cover it with something else. I mean, it's a crazy idea to have a building that works in Alaska and that can work in Saudi Arabia. What we're really saying, it's a challenge to you as the architects of the future. What do you do on the earth when you get opportunities to, if you like, deal with sustainability in a more integrated way, as opposed to adding, if you like, just solar panels or adding just this or just that? That, if you like, the physics of culture is a kind of challenge to try and see, is there some way that as architects we become more like detectives, like that we are scientists to try and find an expression of place in a more detailed way. These drawings, then, we did this competition not expecting to win. We won this competition and it was amazing. Only 9 millimeters of rain, no need for insulation, no need for waterproofing. The speed at which the client built the building was phenomenal. We did the drawings in Dublin. We found fantastic local architects to be our site and our site architects, Alejandro Oshel and Rafael Mispereta. Local architects were fantastic, and these drawings are really the folding and bending wall which is protecting the base of the project from the motorway. And it was an amazing experience for us. 900 workmen on site. It was like building a medieval cathedral. They worked at this, built the main project from start to finish. In this case, they opened a year later after beginning. And in terms of the site, this is the motorway, the busy motorway. This is our project. And as we move in, you can see this kind of linear piece which is shading from the midday sun, and that it's really an infrastructure for life, that you get this single material project This is cascading down to Barranco with the gardens into the residential area. The single material of poured-in-place concrete. The inside of the interior, this cool interior, which is helped by the breeze from the Pacific, begins the life of students like yourself in this vertical campus. And the professors move along these bridges, everybody relating to one another. It's very interesting. Adolf Loos talks about the round plan. Le Corbusier talks about the plan libre. And there's a beautiful book by Annette Spiro on the work of Mendes de Rocha. And in it, there's a discussion on the free section. And one of the most important things for us dealing in the South American climate is that the free section is also an educational possibility. So people on bridges here are seeing professors going to work, and that the outside and connecting elements of the structure and movement form this vertical campus. Here are students looking across one of the landscape areas past the motorway out into their city. Landscape weaving in, the gardeners minding level 5, more landscape here with the staircase cascading here. And we would like to think that students who come from Peru, as they lean on the balconies and look at their country, that they become more aware of where they are and what contribution they might make to their city and to their country. So this is the last image of the UTEC project, which is showing the kind of protective shape and form, but that light is in fact cascading down on the various levels. The second part of what I'm going to talk to you tonight, because we're talking about physics, I want to talk about courtyards. And the reason for doing that, just bear with me just one moment, is that I want you to imagine a conversation in the 1400s between the Duke of Milan, his engineer and architect, and they're planning a community hospital for the city of Milan. And this is in the 1400s. They agree on an organization for their Ospedale Maggiore. 600 years later, which is more than 600 years later, which is now, their building is still in use. Ospedale Maggiore is a city block with courtyards. This is this engraving that's on the screen here. Its secret gardens are robust enough to have survived centuries of change, simple enough to continue giving pleasure. By framing the sky, courtyards encourage natural convection. With sunshine and shadow, hot and cold air move in relation to one another. Pleasure and comfort mingle. We, as architects, trawled through precedent to help us invent new projects, to search for characteristics in buildings that have withstood the test of centuries, that are based on common sense, beyond fashion, with proven capabilities. Ospedale Maggiore, with its timeless strength, continues to influence our work. In the Bocconi University in Milan, we imagined raised courtyards. So this section, going back to the DNA, or the kind of how do you find a synthesis, an idea that's going to hold a project together. We were one of 10 architectural firms to be invited to do a project competition for the University of Milan, Bocconi in Milan. And Bocconi are really the kind of Harvard of Italy. They wanted a building for 1,000 offices, a big hall for 1,000 people, and 5 smaller auditoria for about 200 or 300 people. So this was our biggest project to date to do a competition. We had done projects about 4,200 square meters, and this was up to 65,000 square meters. So this was a big jump in terms of our architectural propositions. So this sketch is really the DNA of the project. Essentially, we took the 1,000 offices and made them like, if you like, bars of space. Offices tend to be 12 meters or 15 or 20 square meters of size. There are certain kind of sizes that are given. And what we did was we said we'd make an upper world of the offices, and that we'd make these small courtyards to bring the sunlight down through to the lower level. And in the brief, they said that they wanted all the major rooms underground in the basement. And we said that it's terrible to have a room with no daylight, and that we wanted to, if you like, corrupt and erupt the ground plane to bring some of the bigger rooms up to reach the light. So we made these two worlds apart from one another, the 1,000 offices above and all the collective spaces down below. And we also wanted to bring the city of Milan through the campus from that. So this is the street level, if you like, through this section. So this is the DNA, the essential idea behind the Bocconi project. This is a small cardboard model at 1:500 actually, but you see the beginnings of this. The upper world of the courtyards, letting light coming down, setting up a rhythm of about 25 meters and diaphragm walls of 3.5 meters, about a bit of 12 feet. Is it feet or am I in a imperial?
We're bilingual.
Bilingual, okay. So if I keep on meters. So here is 3.5 meters between these diaphragm walls and a 25 meter span in terms of structure. This is a construction drawing where you're seeing this now, these courtyards allowing light to come down to this street level, and below ground carving 5 meters and 9 meters and then parking below into the earth in Milan and bringing the city through underneath here. And structurally, in order to make this freedom between the ground and the upper levels, we placed the main structure on the highest level. So essentially, we built the diaphragm walls, put these beams up on the upper level, and from there we hung the offices. So this image describes if you like, the structural rhythm as we move from north to south. This is the construction showing the diaphragm walls, which are built first, so they're brought up, on which the beams are going to hang in the next image. On top of those, the beams are positioned. From those beams hang these threads onto which the offices will be clipped and hung from above. Then in terms of the courtyards themselves, these pencil drawings are really describing the idea that the courtyards are really dealing with the personal and individual offices of the professors and the administrative staff. So this is the personal world of individual windows opening into courtyards for the professors. And then in terms of the city, this is about a kind of an outer crust. It's interesting, Milan was much more affected by the Austro-Hungarian Empire than we had imagined. And people from Milan are actually quite restrained on the outside and quite open when you get to know them. And there are a lot of courtyard buildings. And what we had done is really, in terms of the Bocconi project, made an outdoor crust which is quite tough, and an interior for the courtyards which is quite soft. So in this image, you're looking up at the courtyards to the sky, and each of the offices has this type of hanging like shingle. The glass is really hung. We worked with Perma-Stelisa, the window manufacturers, to develop a hanging system of both clear glass and white glass to provide opening windows for all the professors and administrators, but also layers of privacy across courtyards. This is the outer crust of the building itself in Ceppo. The main relationship to the city, which is this large window I'll show you in section. So now that street level up above, the large window is here, a 22-meter cantilever for the large auditorium, which allows us to have a space which is 5 meters below ground. And this beautiful material is called Biancalasa. And this was a kind of an expression, or an experiment, I should say, in terms of the physics of light. And we were coming 5 meters below ground and further 9 meters below ground. But we know that light bounces. And so the light bounces down into this lower area, which is related to the city, but also to the university itself. And not just in terms of the capacity for light, but also you link university and you link city. So under this 22-meter cantilever is a space that if you are in Milan, please ask to visit down below here, because I would like you to stand under the, if you like, the gravitational field of the projecting cantilever. And for us, it's better than we imagined. The physical reality of standing here with this large piece above you has a kind of a primitive feeling. And if you can, it would be very nice if you could experience this yourself, because for us, we were certainly happy that it was better than we had anticipated. So in this image, that street level up above, you've come down to here to 5 meters, and there's a further 9 meters below. So here's the bridges, city, 5 meters and 9 meters. And light tumbles down, and we've also discovered in the kind of physics of light that when daylight hits structure, it dissolves structure. So you get this kind of cross dancing of light. But in terms of courtyards, what is very interesting is that this is a hot day in Milan with the suspended offices above, and you get the shadow here and the hot sunlight. And because of the cold air and the hot air, you get a very, very slight breeze at this point. And you often find in the summertime that people are naturally gravitating to that point in the hot summers of Milan because there's this little convection happening in terms of the physics of hot and cold. This is a project that we're doing in Toulouse, in the south of France. It's a beautiful city of courtyards. You're now in a courtyard of the red brick city of Toulouse, looking at the blue sky. And in terms of this project, which is under construction, this is the kind of DNA of that project. This is the sketch that holds the whole, if you like, sense of this project together. It's a research part of the university. This orange, this kind of, the orange pieces here are the shared nuggets, which are the larger rooms. Here are the research offices and student research areas and PhD research. But what we're saying here is that we're making a vertical 21st century courtyard. So we're trying to navigate within the courtyard tradition to make an interpretation of that within the beautiful city of Toulouse. The site is like something you would imagine as a student project. This is the huge river of the Garonne. There's a public space here. You move through. There's a Romanesque church. There is a medieval brick wall of 5 meters, which is here. The site is a breach in that wall, and this is the Canal de Brienne, which is coming in on a beautiful stone-clad curve. And the site for the new building is exactly at that break. So for us, it was an incredibly beautiful location. And researching the city of Toulouse, one of the things that really strikes you historically is the number of fantastic buildings with buttresses enclosing fabulous cathedrals. And because we were building a project of about 11,000 square meters, we took the fire staircases in our project to be the kind of buttress to enclose this project. And also we pleated the walls of all the research offices to respond to the sun path and the views of the city. So essentially this is like a sundial which is placed in the position. And this paper model, which I'll show you, we're bringing you into the center here where the lift shaft becomes the kind of core of the internal vertical courtyard, building up the wings of offices which wrap the building around and complete itself with this, what we call a sky cloister, which is framing the entrance ramp, but also connecting the upper floors. And this image is really an internal image of the vertical, what we call the 21st century courtyard, where you're socially connected to other parts of this building, where the president or the students are linking with one another, and you're aware of the city of Toulouse and your relationship to it. And this image shows this is the Romanesque church. As you move down, you come to a ramp and you see the brick enclosures of the fire escapes and the kind of soft interior which forms the heart of this building in Toulouse. Oh, just these two slides are to do with a small school that we built outside Dublin. And on this side here is another 14th century building, which began in the 1400s, which is a monastery just outside Florence in Italy, where it was a hermitage, but each of the hermits had their own individual house, let us say, and a walled garden. And what is very beautiful is that there's a collective, but there's an individuality. And Le Corbusier went to this monastery in 1907, and these are his sketches, where he's looking at the section, he's looking at the access down to the courtyard, and he's really, the fascination that he had in his life and about the individual and the collective is really something that's really important in his drawings at this time. we visited that beautiful monastery, and years later, for us, we were doing a small project outside Dublin it was really 10 classrooms for little ones from 4 to 12 years of age. And we referred to that project in Florence, really saying that we could have each of the classrooms, which are represented in these turquoise drawings here, each child would have the studio of their classroom, but they'd also have a little space which linked into their own private gardens. So these drawings are really saying that facing south, each little group of children would have a garden outside which they would be able to grow relative to their classroom. So this is a larger scale drawing of the studio classroom, the little room which is represented here. It's a 2 meter by 2 meter by 2 meter timber-clad little den, which has become a fantastic focus of those classrooms. This is a project we are doing in Kingston, which is just on the other side of Hampton Court in London. It was another competition that we won. And what's really fantastic about the Kingston University is that they are mixing in this building the kind of most unlikely combination of subjects. There's dance and there's library. There are other pieces of, if you like, elements in education which are normally not put together for other reasons, but they are mixing. And what we wanted to do was to make a university which was a warehouse of ideas, that people we are fascinated by the idea of university and why people come together and how people mix and mingle. It's set in the context of Kingston, the main road along here, and the reason for just showing you these few images of this, that right in the heart of this project which we're pursuing is a three-dimensional courtyard. So in the heart of this project is a courtyard which is really an auditorium, but it's an auditorium with kind of no boundaries or mixed boundaries. So working with fantastic clients, they are really happy to try and mingle the auditorium. So sometimes it's closed off, but mostly it's open. It's a kind of a gathering place. So as I say, a three-dimensional courtyard. This is an image of a place called Saclay. It's a windy plateau about 25 minutes by car west of Paris. You can see kind of Paris in the distance, but I think it's an optical illusion. It's further really than is represented here. So the idea at the moment is that Saclay will become, over the next 50 years, a kind of Silicon Valley of universities mingled together in this area. These trees represent the kind of edge of this the plateau. And we submitted for a competition, which we won for the Institute Mines Telecom. And it's for us, what was really the difficulty of the site was that it was in the middle of nowhere, if you like. It will be something in 30, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But at the moment, it's a windswept place. And I was struck today, just coming into your university, you have this beautiful model upstairs of the project in Granada. No, Cordoba. Is it Cordoba or Granada? It's the mosque with the cathedral. Cordoba. That was just beautiful. The one upstairs is really gorgeous. And that really what we were saying was, in the competition, they needed one of the requirements was that 100 trees had to be planted in real ground. And we were looking at, if you like, references in terms of courtyards that would really help us deal with this enormous project. And this beautiful containment of trees, and also these are the Bastille towns of France. What's amazing about them is that they tend to have 5 streets and have an education, a religious space and a civic space in these fantastic Bastille towns. So we were looking for references that would hold together an enormous campus. And going back to Ospedale Maggiore, this is a plan of Ospedale Maggiore in Milan with its big courtyard, 4 of them here and 4 of them there. And this is Trinity College, the front square of Trinity College in Dublin. And the project that we the proposition that we made for Institute Mines Telecom which is this scale relative to Ospitale Maggiore. This is the same. And what we were proposing is to make a series of courtyards to hold together the enormous amount of offices, research offices. This is 200 meters long by 100 meters. And what we've done is that we have an entrance courtyard, 4 pivotal courtyards here, and the main courtyards in which courtyard has the natural ground in which the 100 trees grow. These images of the pinwheel of the interior, the French light, the entrance court with the auditorium viewing out into the entrance space. And the issue for us also in this is that the main entrance is facing north. These are a series of what we call vertical contours of holding the edge of the project with light coming through. So this is the study model showing the south light coming through the entrance courtyard. There's I've only 3 projects just to go through with you now, just to describe a project that we won recently for the London School of Economics. In the City of London, there's Lincoln's Inn's Fields, and there's a beautiful project, a house which is called the John Soane Museum, which, lucky for us, it's a kind of sad story. He had a number of sons, but 2 of them were completely reckless in terms of gambling, and they had huge debts. He wanted them to become architects, and they refused. And they also got into a lot of debt, and they were really waiting for the father to drop off so that they could sell all his goodies and do more gambling. So as a result, he made his house by Act of Parliament into a museum. So it's now protected and it's free to enter here. And this competition that we were entering had a site for the London School of Economics 55 metres across from this absolutely beautiful house by Sir John Soane. It's also, this is a beautiful chapel which is nearby, and a beautiful part, these Victorian, these are the halls of justice in London. And the London School of Economics, which is this LSE, the campus is embedded in the City of London. It's this kind of tiny grain which links, it's linked by outdoor streets and lanes holding it together. And the competition position was here. And it was the interesting thing for us that Paul Marshall is a philanthropist, and it was really for us an important competition to do and to take into account that philanthropy was going to be woven into the project. Nearby is this beautiful undercroft of the chapel of Lincoln's Inns, and underneath here historically it was always open. The structure is open to the public, but it was a kind of place where abandoned children might be, or babies would be left, and under the kind of law they were taken into by the courts, a lot of them given the name of Lincoln, the male children. But the site for us was on this cusp between landscape and the smaller grain of the rest of the London School of Economics, and it's on a turning point between embedded landscape, open in Lincoln's Inn's Field, and turning into the city grain. Taking into account the philanthropy and taking into account, if you like, the beauty of the chapel, what we've done is use the lower level as a way of making a kind of a new shoreline between the campus proper along here, moving forward out to Lincoln's Inn's Fields. So this is the structural grid, which is on a diagonal, making it open down below, so all students can come from the various parts of the campus, move up these vertical stairs into the upper departments of research. And this image is really showing this kind of idea of an open ground, which is a forum for students. You see Lincoln's Inns, the fields, the landscape in the distance connecting to the student quarters, student areas of other faculties, and then moving up to the various departments, and a structure which is a tree-like structure, which I'll show you a diagram of in a minute, that as we move up, the bigger spaces have bigger structure, and it gets smaller as it moves up. So this structural diagram is really something that we are trying to achieve, because we won this competition and now we're at phase 2. We're at the stage before planning. This is really saying that on the entrance level that you would have larger structure, that you'd move up through to the offices, and that the structural diagram would itself be like a tree, that you make these, if you like, impressive pieces of structure that are holding the building above, influenced by absolutely beautiful structural systems that have been made by wonderful structural engineering architects in South America. So this is our section. It's embedded into the ground of London. On the lower level is a large sports hall. The ground is sloping from front to back. You have the main teaching areas, the big auditoriums for 2 level. Then you move up to the various departments, weaving landscaping in, and the Paul Marshall Institute enjoying the skyline of London. So this is a view of a plan of the teaching levels, where you move up the circulation onto these large auditoria on these levels, some viewing out onto Lincoln's Inns, others rotating around to the city. So we're really, again, like in the UTEC project in Lima, in other project, the Poconi project, we're very interested in the issue of section. That plan is really the kind of logic of relationships, but section is the kind of emotional dimension, the social dimension. So we're really trying to connect the various departments of this building with the public realm and the student below. This paper model describes it in context, seeing it rotating around. The sun is in this dimension, in this position to the southwest. A night view, a view of the socializing levels that you have, these galleries, these outer spaces which are landscape woven through, embedding itself into the city of London. And up here you have this rooftop view over the city with the Paul Marshall Institute on top. The last project I'll show you tonight, just because our practice is based in Dublin, but also for just to give you a flavour of the work or the city that we have woven our work into over so many years. This is St. Stephen's Green, which is a medieval open space within the heart of the city. And this is Marion Square, which is an 18th century Georgian outdoor room made up really of hundreds of houses which are built roughly about 8 or 10 meters discipline around this space. And we were asked to make a building for these are the government offices which are based in the city centre. And this little red outline is a place we were asked to do offices for the Department of Finance. And the city of Dublin, this part of Dublin, is a beautiful mixture of individual houses with brick forming these canyon-like walls. So these are the, if you like, the vertical surfaces, very, very simple Georgian houses with images of beautiful doorways, beautiful entrance thresholds and railings, beautiful chimneys that form the kind of skyline, the skyline of the area. And for us, this site was an important site because it was between the big St. Stephen's Green, the medieval space, and the Georgian streets. And these pencil drawings are really the early studies of this building, which is saying that public buildings in Dublin tended to be made of stone, and the residentials tended to be in brick. So we were making the case to use this very, very pale limestone to make a building inset into the brick location. And what was interesting is that the site in the section here was right beside Huguenot cemetery. And Huguenots were French Protestants that were evicted from France, and what was fantastic for cities around Europe and maybe further afield was that they were terrific merchants, and they really embedded themselves when they were welcomed in various cities. They made a huge impact on the cities that welcomed them. And this is a burial ground for Huguenots. And when the existing building that was there had a blank facade into this protected area, but we negotiated with the Huguenot Trust, and they allowed us to build windows looking out into this area only on one condition, that the wall that we would make between them would be of a darker stone than the building that we were doing, because there's an old stone in the graveyard which is now no longer mined, but it was a dark a stone called calp. And we developed this very small office building. It's only 22 meters of city frontage, but that it has this like cloister-like circulation on the edge. And there was an idea of the kind of democracy of being able to view out through the windows out over the city. And we positioned this is 3 meters of a staircase to the south, which acted as the main space in this building. It was only offices, and we were trying to find, if you like, a collective element that would join the community of workers together. And we used this main staircase here to the front of the building, which cantilevered over the streetscape of 3 meters with stairs and void. The reason I'm showing you this beautiful image by Eileen Gray, the architect Eileen Gray, she made these incredibly beautiful screens, lacquered screens. And these kind of beautiful pieces were inspirational to us, really, making parts of the elevation for the Bocconi project, but also when we were thinking about this project for the Department of Finance. And what fascinated us really was the solid and void. If you could think of this as an elevation where windows were, if you like, the voids between the solids. And this other amazing building in Stockholm, it's a bank which is, for us, what is amazing about it is that the sense of the stone is really reiterated in the building. You feel it like a carved, this Celsing building. He made this building, and he didn't lose that sense of stone, which many buildings which use stone today lose in their making. This is our elevation with the darker stone looking into the graveyard, and you have the thick wall. This is 450 millimeters in depth, so this is a kind of a deep screen into the graveyard. And there's this image and the last image, which I suppose in terms of the physics of culture, for us, what was really important in making this building in the Georgian context was we made this bridge, this beautiful bronze filigree gate, but also using stone that the engineers tell you that you can really only use a 6 meter wide, if you like, expanse, and you need, expansion joints. So here we're trying to merge the expansion joints, the physical properties of stone and concrete and movement, that as architects, the sooner you know what these issues of physics are, the better that you can handle them. If they tell you very late in the day, the structural engineers give you the information too late, then you have to deal with things that are harder later on in the design process. And this little shadow gap is only 20 millimeters, which is actually joining it's an aesthetic choice for us in terms of breaking down the scale of the elevation. But for us, this 20 millimeters is really important in terms of shadow, and you can also see the 6 meter joint lines that have to be used in terms of movement and expansion. I suppose these last few images are really talking to you as a student body to say that this is a 100 millimeter thick real stone. These are 10 millimeter joints, and that the physicality of architecture is that people walk past. What you make is not just an abstract idea, that the physicality of architecture means that people in this image, this is a person that we will never know, a stranger walking by your buildings, but that the American bronze, the Ballinasloe limestone, the way you make a building influences people as they go about their daily lives. And that it may not be somebody you know, but that if you like, the responsibility of architects is to make a world where ideas are strong, let's say, but also that the physical reality, the pleasure of the buildings that we make. We often discuss not only the kind of physics of culture, but that architecture is the new geography, that building is at such a scale now that you really have to think about the world in geological or at a scale much bigger than just the individual building. So I'd like to finish there and just to say thank you very much indeed for inviting me to speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.